Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Come on in here for the real thing, everybody. Appreciate y'all joining us on another edition of the Jboy Show. Got another great one for you. Mike Scarborough, the owner and publisher of TigerBait.com, is going to join us. We're going to talk LSU, kind of what's going on in fall camp, especially with the Miles Brennan news that broke last week. But first, got to give a shout out to betonline.ag. Head over there today. They've got everything going on. If you sign up now, whether it's laptop, desktop, mobile, doesn't matter. You get a 50% sign up bonus. Head over to betonline.ag. The Olympics obviously winding down. We got Major League Baseball. College football is right around the corner. Let me just say that again. College football is right around the corner. It's happening. People very excited about it. So make sure before you do anything, you head over to betonline.ag today. My monologue is one that, and we've been doing this fan fall camp and so we're going to continue to do that. But really, I want to kind of talk about fall camp and for those who are kind of outside of it, that aren't really in there when the sausage is being made. You know, what is fall camp? What is the transition of fall camp? But first, we have to understand what fall camp used to be and what it is now. You know, back in the day, you'd have fall camp. There were 3-a-days. You even had 4-a-days. And it's kind of not toned down. I don't want to make it sound easy, but the contact, the amount of contact, the overall physicality, and the time restrictions have kind of changed fall camp a little bit. You really have almost 2.5 week window now. But as I've said all along, if you're having to form your team in fall camp, you're already way behind. You're already lost. The team is formed in spring and it's formed in the summer. And the great thing about this past year, or this current year, is that we've had a spring practice. We've had a normal summer and what's looking like a normal fall camp. Obviously, knock on wood. But when you start out in fall camp, typically, you know, you go out there and walkthroughs, your meetings, and some guys do it different. Some guys will take the veterans out at one time early in walkthroughs and the young guys to try and get them brought up to speed. Even though you better been in your playbook in the summer, you find out who really wants to play and who doesn't. You can have all the physical tools, but if you don't know what to do, it doesn't matter. And you really transition from the walkthrough phase, you know, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, to putting the pads on and finding out, especially from the new guys, who is physically ready to play. Whether that's inside drill, whether that's perimeter drill, whether that's tackling, doing football things, physical things, especially at the SEC level and the Division I level, that you have to be able to do when you get out there on Saturdays. And when you turn that tape on, you are going to find out, number one, who wants to stick their face in it. What do I mean by that? Who is not afraid of contact? The young guys coming up, are they, even if it may be a mistake or whatever, are they going in trying to blow somebody up? Are they playing upset? Are they trying to be as physical as possible? Then you look at things at every position. I mean, we always talk about hand placement in the offensive line and the defensive line, but whether it's press coverage, whether it's how to take on blocks at linebacker, whether it's how to leverage things, all the little nuances are going to work themselves out as fall camp goes. And it's funny, we had Darren Bates, former Auburn Tiger, St. Louis Ram, guy that's had a heck of a career, talk about his first day at Auburn and you know, whether it's summer workouts or whatever, he didn't do very well. It's kind of stumbling around and this, that, and the other, probably the worst, you know, football day of his life. And all of a sudden the pads come on and he ends up starting as a young guy. There's a huge difference between guys that can walk through stuff and guys that can do it in shirts and shorts and heck, really even shells. And then guys that can do it when not only the pads come on, but the lights are at their brightest. And as a coaching staff, when you're evaluating fall camp, the first thing you're looking at is effort. You shouldn't have to teach effort. If at this level, if you're not willing to give effort, you're never going to make it. And the fundamental stuff and angles and all this stuff is great. But on defense, is everybody running to the ball? On offense, are the offensive linemen running down to the field after they block somebody, down the field, on a big run, getting ready to line up, ready to steamroll somebody else? Those are the things that you're looking for. Because guys that don't give effort, there's a famous quote, you can't win with them. You can't win with them. Mike Singletary, I believe, the guy that said that. So it starts there. Then you look at the technique and the physicality. After that 2-week window of that physicality, you got to start getting ready for the game. From an input standpoint, you're always talking a little bit about the opponent, especially to the veteran guys. But as the season gets closer, as kickoff gets closer, you make a hard transition. Once the decisions are made in fall camp and you're getting ready for game week, which is really 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away is when you really start. Now it's all game mode. And that's a little bit different. Not that you're not being physical on Tuesdays a little bit and that you're just walking around hugging each other and reading poems. You're still hitting, but now you are having to find out what the enemy does. But there is no better feeling as a player than realizing you are close to hitting somebody with a different colored jersey on. You hit everybody on your team in spring. In fall camp, you're grinding, being physical against your own guys. You pretty much figured each other out. It's always funny. We'd always catch hell from the offense because they'd be like, well, y'all know our plays. Well, y'all know our coverages. Y'all know our blitzes. Y'all know our signals too. But that's a story for another day. So when you're looking at fall camp, understand how it transitions and kind of follow that as it goes through, and you'll see the sharp transition. We appreciate you joining us. Let's get Mike Scarborough in here. It's getting here, baby. Let's win the water cooler. All right, as promised, we have Mike Scarborough, owner and publisher of TigerBait.com. Excited to bring him in here. We're going to talk some LSU and fall camp and a little SEC preview as well, get his thoughts. But first, Mike, we're recording this on Monday, August 9th. We're going to be dropping this on Tuesday, August 10th. But today is a very special day for Mike Scarborough. May I be one of the first to tell you, or, hopefully your mom, dad, whatever, have already told you. But happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you. It's they're creeping up quick.
Yeah, well, like I was telling you earlier, ever since I got out of my 20s, I'm 31 now, I've stopped looking at it as age, and I'm just looking at it as levels. So I've reached level 31. Like, I'll pass away the back. I'm 75 years old. It's like, man, you have reached level 75. You're 20 years away from the boss. I mean, that's what everybody's trying to get to. So congrats.
In my family, birthdays are big, and you're in big trouble if you don't call somebody or you don't have a cake. But I always get chipped because my birthday falls the first week of LSU football practice every year. So unless I fall on a Friday or Saturday night on a weeknight, I'm out. So
yeah,
that's all right. I'm gonna catch up on all the free meal offers later in the week.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that all by myself song, but I know you're gonna have fun, Mike. But heck, let's get into football. All right, so we know the deal with Miles Brennan, going down. I don't want to get too specific on that. We know Max. I've always thought Max was going to be the guy eventually, obviously not like this. But what are some storylines early from fall camp with the LSU? Because the season's right around the corner, Mike, and everybody wants to talk right now. What are you hearing? What's the news?
Well, I think the storylines are, look, I think a lot of people are looking at this LSU football team, and I know there's some different opinions regionally and nationally. But I think this LSU football team is absolutely loaded. Now, certainly in the offseason, we would have liked for Dari Rosenthal not to have his issues and end up in Kentucky. Would like to have Miles Brennan to not been wearing flip-flops and broke his arm, and have a little bit more mature depth at quarterback. That's a scary proposition. I think there's some interesting things at the tight end spot. Obviously, Gilbert in and up at Georgia. But you've got Cole Taylor, and there's a lot of excitement here for Jack Besh out of St. Thomas More as a true freshman. Excited to see a little bit of him and the media opportunities we have had at practice. But I think across the board, whether it's running back, wide receiver, offensive line has some bodies, and the defensive line, linebackers and safeties and corners. I don't think there is a weak link on the LSU defensive side of the ball. So, I think Ed Orgeron likes people picking LSU probably somewhere in the middle teens and third in the SEC West, even though that vote was a little tight between second and third between LSU and A&M. But I think he likes where that spot is. And certainly, we're weeks away from the road trip to UCLA to kick it all off.
Yeah, man, I'm ready for it. Mike, coming into this year and looking at this new offense, and again, I want to ask you, the practice access that Edo gives, is it the same as last year? Has anything changed a little bit? And if you have gotten a little inside look, how excited are the players? We'll talk about defense in a second. How excited are the offensive guys about this new offense, kind of getting back to spreading it around, being a little diverse, being a little exotic formationally and motionally?
I think there's a lot of excitement. I think there's a renewed vigor in the program. I think you've got a lot of football players that are embarrassed about what happened last football season. I think the infusion of young coaches in the staff is a big deal. A lot of 30-somethings there. You've got Andre Carter, a former NFL. I mean, he's just a few years removed from playing on an NFL defensive line. I think that's gotten a lot of the attention of all the LSU defensive linemen, where they're deep and can rotate guys in and out. I think, look, watching Coach Pete's, not only in the spring, but just out there now and seeing Mangus and what they're doing right now, I think, look, it's very reminiscent of what we saw when Joe Brady was there in his first spring and summer. So I think there's a lot of reason to be excited, a lot of RPO. And I know a lot of people are still, if you want to say, okay, what, obviously tight end as a spot, maybe some will question running backs, but man, I think with the 4 and 5 running backs that LSU's got there, they're going to have a solution. I think maybe the question is if you might have a stout running game, but if you have a bona fide pass catcher at the running back spot out of the backfield, which can be a big deal to this offense. So that remains to be seen.
And again, we haven't put the pads on yet or officially really got into a couple days of pads. But offensively, who are some young guys? I know they brought in Armani Goodwin, a very sought-after running back recruit, talking about the running position. We know about Keyshawn Butte at wide receiver. You talked about Cole earlier. Are there some young guys or maybe some newer guys offensively that we may see shine early at LSU?
Well, look, I think, you've got an opportunity for a running back, maybe both of those two you named, Corey Connor or Armani Goodwin. I think, I mentioned Jack Bech earlier. He's kind of a played wide receiver at St. Thomas More. He was Walker Howard's main target. And, is he going to be a guy at that hybrid spot, tight end, H-back, however they use him? He's going to be really interesting at about 215 pounds. So, but then from there, is there a Brian Thomas or a Chris Hilton or a Malik Neighbors or Deion Smith or one of those new wide receivers or two of them, along with Jack Bech, going to stake a claim and get on the field? I think you're going to see a lot of large wide receiver sets. So I think there's a real opportunity for several of them to play.
Yeah, and a big thing, and again, the Miles Brennan situation, it is what it is, was something we talked about a little bit last week. And the fascinating part for me is looking at how Coach Pete's is going to adjust without having a proven backup, because it does affect play calling. Not that you're not going to take chances or this, that, and the other, but Max is really good with his feet. That's what makes the RPO dangerous. That's what makes the zone read dangerous. The defense has to account for it, especially in the red zone. And we both know that's where OCs and play callers make their money. Do you think they may have to tone down a little bit of the quarterback run game or the opportunity for the quarterback to run, whether it be zone read and keeping it, whether it be the RPO and keeping it, because that's an option?
I don't think that you can lock him down. And if he sees wide open field and can pick up a first down, he's got to have the green light to go and play football. Mm-hmm. And what we know about Max is not only is he a stout kid, he's a big kid. He took some hits last year, very physical. Knock on wood, there's no history of injuries. His dad was a darn healthy football player throughout his career as well.
He was.
Yeah, and so and then obviously his little brother Jake is another big kid. They're just a big family. So I don't think you take away any of the things that he does that makes him successful at the position. Do you necessarily have some design runs that you can kind of put on the back burner because you don't want to do that unless you have to? But you're right, it is a part of the offense. But I don't think it's kind of like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, once he liked getting that first hit or two in a football game, and that's when he came alive. So I don't know if Max feeds off of it the same way that Joe Burrow did, but that's part of being a football player. And I think you got to let him fly. And like I said, if it's 3rd and 8 and he sees a wide open field and can pick it up and get out of bounds, he's got to go.
Without a doubt. And the art of sliding is a real thing, especially after you get the first down and going out of bounds because look, guys like that are competitors. I can tell Max is a competitor, and sometimes those quarterbacks like to deliver a blow every once in a while to kind of set the tone, because all they hear is, oh, we never hit you in practice. Oh, that's such a pretty red jersey you got on in practice, and this, that, and the other. And it's just one of those things where I know Coach Pete's going to be like, listen, Max, we know you're tough. We know you're a hard ass. We understand it, but we got to be smart. It's a long season. And speaking about hits and delivering hits, I talked to Derek Stingley at Media Days. Love that guy. I know he's excited to be healthy, number one, and to be able to go back out there and kind of, one guy can't atone for last year, but the veterans returning, as you mentioned, they're pissed off, Mike, and they should be. And that's very dangerous especially with an 18 to 22-year-old male at a place like LSU, to have people telling them how bad they were last year. Is there a better combination of corners in the country than Ricks and Stingley Jr.?
They're up there. I'd like to see who you would put ahead of them. And if they can stay healthy, the sky's the limit. And look, there's no doubt last year what we saw was an abomination. Stingley wasn't healthy, a lot of miscommunication, new defense and no spring football. It was just all the opt-outs. It was just you couldn't make a drop a mess any dirtier than that one. And but I think the coaching that they're getting now and the amount of preparation they've been able to have because they were able to get a full spring and all the work they've done, throughout the summer already. I think they're going to be fantastic, and certainly we know corners are aided by edge rushers that can get after the quarterback.
That's exactly right.
And I can't wait to see what Ali Gay's going to look like in his second year out of junior college, because I think he's going to be devastating. And then on the other side, you've got Andre Anthony and others. And like I said, this is the best defensive line group, whether it's your ends or your interior guys, that Ed Orgeron's had since he's been at LSU, either as a position coach or as the head coach. So if they stay healthy on that defensive line and are able to rotate the bodies that he's got, whatever fourth quarter game it is, whatever the heat index is in September or October, whether it's a multi-overtime game, I think that defensive line could be a real difference maker.
Speaking of the defensive line, Mike, a kid I've really had my eye on whose tape just absolutely popped last year coming out of high school, and his upside to me is crazy, is Mason Smith, the former five-star. Have you heard anything? Is he starting to make a move at the depth chart? Because if that kid figures it out, he's going to be a problem for at least 3 years, and a major problem at that. Yeah,
I think, look, Orgeron singled him out all through the spring. We had Orgeron on Friday night. Now I'm trying to recall if he singled him out. Orgeron was maybe a little different on Friday. He lit up a little bit when I asked him about Jacoby Guillory, one of the true freshmen last year that came in with Jaquel Roy. He had a high ankle sprain, COVID, and he's another one to add to that mix, an interior nose guard type. But I think Mason has a real opportunity. He had a great spring in off season. So yeah, I haven't heard that he's fallen back any. I expect him to be a force. And then you've got another one that I wonder at some point in the coming weeks if we're going to hear anything about Savion, because he's the guy that I had him and Mason 1A and 1B as my top two in the state of Louisiana. So Savion Jones is an absolute beast. I had him as a 5-star, and he's already gained like 30 pounds since he arrived on campus in June.
Yeah, it's
so
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, he's a combination of he's in that Jadeveon Clowney, in between him and like a Barcavius Mingo, size-wise, motor-wise. And I don't know what we're going to see from him as a true freshman, but he's one of those kids that's going to be lights out in year 2 or 3 without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, what's better than signing one absolutely elite defensive lineman, signing 2 of them? And again, that's high praise. We all know how good Barkevius and Jadeveon was. And I always love looking at the true freshmen that are physically ready to play. Because if you're not physically ready to play, you can be smarter than Steve Jobs. If they cloned Steve Jobs and Zuckerberg and had some sort of human there, Stephen Hawking or somebody. But looking again, and Durante Jones was a very interesting hire to me. Not because I don't think he's going to do well, but really hasn't been a defensive coordinator as a young guy. As we wind down here, Mike, do you kind of have a feeling for how the LSU defense is going to look? I mean, it's you got to be multiple in most facets, but do you feel like we're going to see as much man as we saw last year, a little more zone, maybe being a little more aggressive? Kind of, what's your feel on the LSU defense schematically right now?
I think they want to be multiple, but LSU's always been a man defensive team, and and you want to talk about being physical back there in newcomers. One of the guys that we're talking about, how much might we see him is Sage Ryan at safety.
Yeah.
Out of Lafayette Christian, a very gifted physically defensive back and athlete. And, he's one that we're going to be waiting to see in the coming weeks, particularly after the first scrimmage this Saturday, which the media, we don't get any access. And by the way, you asked earlier, what is our access? We get 4 periods, sometimes 3. But usually we get 4 periods, which has been the policy ever since the year 2000 when Nick Saban came to town, and every coach since then has followed the pattern of 4 periods, but Les Miles would always give us 4 periods, and as soon as he got an injury at practice that he didn't want us to know about, he'd lock us out. So I remember one year I think we got 2 or 3 practices, and we were locked out the rest of August just because he didn't want to know he didn't want us to go in there and take roll or see who was wearing a yellow or green jersey.
That's funny. I was going to ask you earlier with Max Johnson. I don't think we're going to see any under center run the toss and have the quarterback lead block. I always thought that was a pretty interesting little play there, but it worked for him some. But Mike, my last question for you: going out to UCLA, all the outside noise that LSU's gone through in the off season and this, that, and the other. It's obviously a huge game, but if LSU can go out there and handle business, how much of a springboard game? And I know UCLA isn't the Buccaneers. I understand that. But how important after last year is this first game to just go out there and grab a dub? It doesn't have to be by 30 or by 21, just to get some confidence, because the SEC West this year, Mike, and Alabama's, I don't think they're going to be as elite as they normally are, but the West is pretty deep.
Look, I think a road game might actually be good for this team to start the season because it gets them out of town. It gets them focused. They're not worrying about our friends or family coming into town and what's their ticket situation and all that stuff. Sometimes teams can focus. So, but you're right. I think it is an important game because you look at the rest of the schedule and when you get into the meat of it, and while the schedule isn't as good as Texas A&M's, there's still a real opportunity to start strong if you get past the first one, and then you got to, you get Auburn, Texas A&M, and Florida at home. Of course, Texas A&M is the last home game of the year, and then you just have to be mindful of avoiding the trap games, whether it's at Kentucky. Ole Miss is always a crazy one with a lot of points scored. Lane Kiffin letting it fly. There's a lot of people worried about where that Kentucky games fall, but if they get past the first one, like you said. I think it'd be a springboard of big things. And even though they lost Miles, if you tell me Max is going to go the whole season healthy, and you're not going to be having to play Garrett Nussmeier for 2 or 3 games while he heals up from whatever it might be, or whatever it might be, I think. Look, losing Rosenthal, I still think this is a 10-2 team. I'm not going any lower than that. So if the line out there, if Vegas is still saying 8.5 is the over and under. I'm taking the over all day long still.
Mike Scarborough, dropping some hints there for you gamblers like me out there. But, Mike, it's always great to have you on. Going to have you on as we go throughout the season. I'm just excited it's back like you are, man. Happy birthday again. Tell everybody where they can find your work because you're one of the best doing it.
Yeah, go to tigerbait.com, subscribe, choose the annual package. It saves you 3 months. And we've been going live. As soon as we get out of practice, we'll be going live with our instant analysis. On our YouTube channel. Go look for LSU Tigers on tigerbait.com. Subscribe there. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. And you'll see when we go live. It's been a big hit, and people are liking us as soon as we come out all sweaty, talking about what we just saw at practice. So we'll be out there again this afternoon and every day that we have access.
That's awesome, man. It's back. The pending or the pent-up excitement for this football season, trying to get back to normal is unlike any other. I'm just ready to see teams hit somebody with a different colored jersey on. Mike, we'll get you back on soon, my friend.
Hey, anytime you need me, I'm here. Thanks.
All right, brother. Thank you guys as well. Make sure you subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Got some big news coming. So just make sure you check us out at the Jboy Show. And like Max Johnson on the RPO around the corner, but don't take the hit. We're going. Gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.